I am so excited to have Kate on the podcast today. Thank you so much for being here.
I'm so psyched. My namesake, Ms. Catherine. Great to be here.
Exactly. And we're probably talking for a long, we've talked before, we were talking before even recording, we just so click. So that's why I'm so excited to introduce her to everyone. So Kate, I'm going to have you go ahead and start and talk about what it is that you do. How do you make a living right now?
Oh, that's a great question. So I think it's a combination platter. Just as a background, I have a theater degree, and I think that everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, wasting your money in a theater degree." But ultimately, the gift in life, the gift of success in business, in any area of your life, is the gift of presence. And I got shipped off to performing arts high school when I was a junior and classic ADHDer, and I get thrown into theater class. And so I'm just like listening to people's stories and I'm fascinated. I'm laughing. I can't help it. I'm just fascinated by people, like hyper focused. And I got A's. And I'm like, wait a minute. All you got to do is pay attention and actually be authentic and respond. And that's an A. And I'm like, that's normal. So that I truly believe was the ultimate core of my success in everything I do, from building, a 7-figure goal business to competing in bikini competitions and winning. I did a show in December and won first place in 2 categories.
That's so
So
great.
everything in my life is based on the gift of presence. And, best-selling author, podcaster, high performance coach, blah, blah, blah. It's all a list of things. But really where I make my money and where I make my passion and my joy is through connection through people in whatever form it is. But there's a list a mile long, and that's the way it goes with achiever type personalities. But I'm just here to bring the joy in everything I do. And a little laughter, because life is heavy, Catherine.
It is a heavy lift for sure. And any chance that we can get to, bust out laughing, hang out with some friends or family that really bring us joy, then that is really, really key. We kind of
Essential.
jumped ahead a little bit ahead and gave us a glimpse of my next question which is what you did as a kid. So clearly theater was a main focus in your life, especially in high school. But let's just go back even younger. When you were really young, what were some things that you did that were creative or fun? I mean, Kate's feet hit the ground, and what did you do?
My hands hit the ground, really. I mean, because basically it's the reason why I have such, I'm muscular on the upper body, because I live basically on my hands, whether I was swinging from a tree or handstanding or cartwheeling. My life was in experiencing life in all its different facets through all different ways. And I think that ultimately is why I am the way that I am. Is I enjoyed experience, I enjoyed exploration. And that also meant that I had the Dewey Decimal System memorized in the library. because, because I knew where the books were that I loved. I loved reading about, for some reason, spirituality and psychology. It was my thing. I was fascinated. And I came from a family that was I'm one of 9 children. So that's a
Oh my
really
goodness.
defining characteristics of who I am. We're both from the Midwest, Catherine. It's what
Yep.
happens, right?
Big
Yeah.
families.
Yeah. So, right, exactly. And so I think that a lot of growing up in a big family is being part of the chaos. And one of the things that I think is very interesting, and I hear this often, and I'm sort of jealous, but there is this whole idea when you're from a big Catholic family in particular that there's no competition, it's community. Like, you get along, you acquiesce, you let the other person win, you give your kids a snack, whatever that is. And so I never learned the joy of competition and what that meant until I was an adult. And I
Well,
just
that's
think that
interesting.
I'm bringing that up because the core element of the word competition is which is community. I want to play with A game players. I'm looking for people who approach life with a high level of enthusiasm. Enthusiasm means in the divine. When people used to criticize me, you're so energetic, you're so enthusiastic. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry, And I realized that that's a good thing. And it's taken me a few years to figure that out because, as my mother always said, I was always a little bit too big for my britches, but she loved me for it.
My mom said very similar things too, and I think especially growing up at a time, and maybe even still today, where, girls and women are told to be demure or quiet or wait your turn and be polite and be nice and things like that. When you come across a woman that, or even a girl that, kind of steps over that boundary, she's She's the weird kid.
Yeah. It's kind of, I never felt like I fit in anywhere. And I think that
Same.
that's a conversation for people. In particular, we're talking about business here and the path to success is that you're not going to fit in. And I think that sucks. And it's true. And it's a little sad. I'm a little bit melancholy about that because, when you grow up in a big family and you want to fit in, I want to fit in. And I never really fit in. And so, sometimes we're given gifts that require us to not fit in. I mean, did Mother Teresa fit in? Did Gandhi fit in? Does Tony Robbins fit in? Catherine, do you fit in?
Oh, heck no.
Right. And so, but there's a little melancholy with that, because I'm like, can't we all just get along?
Well, and I think to your point, for me too, it was very sad for me or challenging in high school when I think we all were. I mean, that was the expectation. You got to fit in. You have to have like a big pack of friends. And I was always kind of the odd kid out. But what I came to learn as I got older is that uniqueness was the thing that could make you successful. Being different is a great thing because even when you think about it from a business perspective, it's those companies that are doing different things that are the ones that are succeeding. When you blend in, nobody notices you. Like if you're an accounting firm, and that's why we talk about what is your specialty especially when I talk to people that own businesses, it's like you can't just do one thing. You have to stand for something. You have to have a specialty and really focus in on what that is. And it's that uniqueness that's going to deliver success. Like if you let's stick with my accounting analogy. If you're an accounting firm that only works with nonprofits, for example, you're not like everybody else. You have a real specialty. So I think what's great is that if you really know what that weirdness is in you, that's what you go for. That's what you push forward. That is your strength and your superpower. And that is what makes you successful.
Yeah. And
I don't worry about that fitting in anymore. I'm like, I'll walk into a room like, I am here.
Right. And yet not easy, right? Not easy because it's like, because as a woman being like that, I mean, you had a successful marriage now, but you had a marriage that you couldn't be all that, right?
That is correct.
Right. And so I think a lot of our decision making sometimes when we're like that, when we don't fit in is I know what I don't want.
Exactly.
And this is why I'm writing my new book called Peaceful Ambition, because basically you write the book that you needed, right? You write the book that you needed.
That's very true.
And I needed to know how to achieve feeling peaceful and purposeful because all I knew was I grew up in chaos. I never fit in anywhere. I got dropped into performing arts high school with extraordinarily talented people. And I was like, woohoo, I can do a front handspring. No, I was watching people play at Boston Symphony Hall and at the Boston Ballet. I was a lackey loser compared to these people, right? So I always got my ass kicked. And I said, oh, hell no, I will not, right? So a lot of my growth was based on I will refuse to be left behind. And at the same time, we have to leave behind pieces of ourselves.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So real important. I think that's a really important topic when we're talking about success. There is the melancholy. And I'm bringing that up because, well, it's the anniversary of the loss of my son. His birthday is coming up soon. And man, he's the my muse of peaceful ambition because he lived these qualities. And what I want to say, I want to speak into you, all of you viewers and listeners, is that there is someone that you had in your life, and maybe they're not here with you now, that believed in you. They believed in you and you knew they believed in you and you can picture it. You know what it felt like. They loved you and they were going to push you enough because they loved you that much. Yeah. So when we lose them, it's devastating. I was devastated. I was devastated when my son passed away. He ascended on his own accord, as his friends describe it. He chose to take his own life at 22. Yeah. And what I learned was, and this is from a coach, she said to me this. She said, what are the qualities that you loved about him? And I was like, oh, he was so peaceful. He was so gritty. He was so kind. Well, let me tell you something. Kate McKay wasn't all those qualities. But what my coach said to me was this. Those qualities, they don't need those qualities anymore. So you can now wear those qualities. You can wear them. You can be them. And that has been transformational. So as I speak those words, what are the qualities of the person that you love that maybe you're grieving over? Maybe it's a recent loss, or maybe in a little longer that you still have sadness. You can honor those people, because you know what? You're meeting my son Will right now.
Oh, I
You're
love
meeting
that
my
so
son
much.
Will right now, and I'm honored to bring him into the room with all of us.
I love that so much. You do have such a great presence, and I can totally see you being really successful in theater and things like that. And what I want to put a point on with your creative background, if you will, is that, and I've talked to other people on the podcast where they've had theater backgrounds, and their success, their growth comes from being on stage, and it's not always in an acting capacity. And you definitely have a presence, and again, you're bringing all of the gifts that your son has left you to come forward and be able to connect with people with all of those things. So now, piling all that up, you have this passion to speak to others, to write these books, to inform them, to give them the keys to what they need to succeed. But it's all based on a lot of this kid that just sprang out of bed and wanted to just, take a really big bite out of life.
Yeah, I don't have fear. And I think part of that is a little bit bizarre.
Is
And
that a
that's
good
why
thing or a bad thing?
I think that it's like, oh, I'll try it. That's the way that I just
Right.
was. And I never was a big, huge risk taker physically, because I'm a bodybuilder, and bodybuilders are the biggest nerds you've ever met. Like, I am the biggest nerd. I am a nerd, and I don't look like a nerd, but people see me and they're like, oh my God, you're so fit. And I'm like, I'm not really that fit. Like, in my mind, I'm not. But I'm a science, and I'm a creative, but I'm also extremely science based. And I think there is an art and science to every single thing, even theater. Like, I studied the history of theater. I got the pleasure of studying theater in its different facets, but it mirrors history, right? I'm reading a lot of right now, Ryan Holiday. So he goes through the stories of famous people and how they face courage or justice or ego or all of that. It's all a journey. And the reason why I took an acting class recently, Catherine, and I was like, this sucks. And it was because I don't want to be somebody else.
Yeah, I don't want to be told what to say.
I want to be interactions with people,
Yeah.
like with the person at Walmart and the people I love to be in interaction with people. And so bottom line is this, and this is something I think is very important, is that I'm big energy, but I'm not extroverted. I'm big energy, but I spend a lot of time by myself. I need to, because I need to regroup and kind of think through things. And
Yes.
I'm a deep person. I'm also extraordinarily sensitive. And so, it's a daily commitment that we have to make to ourselves of how we want to show up, and we can decide. And when you go through great loss, whatever that is, we've all had it.
Mm-hmm.
But when I lost my son, I had to come up with another way to redefine my life and what meaning is. And the bottom line is, I'm not attached to life like people are. I'm just not. Like, I laugh inappropriately at situations, because I'm like, really? That's what you're worried about? Okay. And I'm like under my breath, but it's like, life is fleeting. And anyone who's listening right now, you have a calling, you have a longing in your heart that you haven't even told anybody. Take a small right action. Take it. Because I will never live my life with regret. I want to lay my head on the pillow at the end of my life and go, damn, that was good. I didn't leave anything on the table. Don't leave anything on the table. You were given unique gifts to express and to serve. You are here to serve. You can do your social work, your inner work and your self work and your inner child, all that, fine. But you serve at the same time. Life is supposed to be messy. Serve through your mess. Serve through your mess, please. And thank you.
I love that so much, to serve through your best. Because, the thing is, sometimes people just waste so much time getting ready. It's like, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. I'm not ready. I gotta tweak. I have to, just to take that next step. So I love that. It's like, what, time is fleeting. If not now, when, sort of thing that we hear all the time. And you're living that, which is really, really cool.
So true. It's so true. It really, truly is. All we have is this moment. Mm-hmm. And that goes back to what we started with, which was give the gift of presence.
Yes.
Something could go off around me.
And it's free. It's free. And it's all people really want, And
it's kind and it's loving. And it can also be threatening, because people are so used to having people like checked out. right?
That's true. And I remember
Mm-hmm.
years ago, and it always stuck with me when Oprah Winfrey once said, people just want to be seen. And
True.
what you're talking about is exactly that. It's a very simple gift that we can give to people about being present for people and serving, and all based on our experiences. And you have a vast amount of experience that you
Yeah.
can help people with. And if you were just to, hop into a cocoon, just think of all the people that could have moved forward with your help, which is why it's great that you're writing books. And I'm going to just use that as a segue to just say, I'm assuming all your books are available like on Amazon and things like
Yes.
that. So, what are some of the titles that you have?
My first book was called Living Sexy Fit. And but then it's now Claim Your Inner Badass and Claim Your Inner Hottie. Claim Your Inner Warrior, which is dedicated, it's particularly for men. I coach a lot of men. And that's one article in particular in there. I had a column for 8 years, and I wrote an article about how men express grief and loss. It's
Oh,
very
interesting.
different than women. And it's okay that it's different. And please let it be different.
Yep.
And women need to learn how to honor men's process as much as we're asking them to honor ours. Very, very important.
Yes.
Very important. I lost a brother. My brother was murdered, and I
Oh
had
my
a son to
goodness.
suicide. So I have a loss. So that's why I am in the grace-filled position of coaching younger people, of having younger men of all ages, but they need Mama Kate. They need Mama Kate to love them, but also to challenge them into their greatness, to embrace their warrior. My most recent, I also have Gratitude Journal. The most recent book is my book, as I mentioned, soon to be released, called Peaceful Ambition. And it's about how to master change through rapidly changing
Oh, I
times.
love
I'm
that.
really deeply committed to it.
We are definitely in need of that right now because so much is changing. And the thing is, I mean, that's just a part of life. Change will happen, and how we cope with it is the important part of that. Much like with when you're in business as well, um, problems are going to occur. Don't expect that you're a lousy CEO, for example, if situations happen. They are going to happen. What makes you a great CEO is how you handled it. And I think
Totally.
that it speaks to a lot of the topics that you're talking about too. It's like, how do you handle things, and be okay with how other people handle things too.
Yeah, and something that's really important that I never really got. I talked about it a lot, but I never really did it. Now I'm much more open to it. Which you got to have a board of directors for your life.
Oh,
You
I love
have
that.
to, and
Yep.
that's a good accountant, a good attorney, right? A good therapist, astrologer, whatever it is for you. Get that and be very discerning on who the heck is allowed in that room. And there are people right now, if I'm maybe talking to you, that not you, Catherine, but whatever, that are at your table that don't belong there. That you're
Yeah.
giving
Oh,
them
that's yeah.
credence when they don't belong there. Ah, yes. So you could politely invite them out to the door and say, "I'll see you later." But be
Right.
selective and be very clear on what the values are of the people that you want to support you.
It-
And because you want to A game, right? It's all about A gaming in this life, and path of excellence should have some fun too. So build
yeah,
in the
and
fun.
and I have no issue if you have someone who is willing to question you and your motivation and
Please,
things like that, kind of maybe poke holes in some of your ideas. But if you
please.
have a complete naysayer in your life, yeah, they got to get off the board.
Yeah, yeah. There's the door.
Like, we're only moving
Thank you for
forward
your
here.
service.
We're not going to be complacent. We're only moving forward here. So if you're not
Yes.
here for the ride, and if your questions are not going to help us move forward, then yeah, you got to leave the room.
Yeah, and I'm sure you've had many experiences like that on your
Oh
trajectory
my
of
gosh,
success
yeah,
based
and
on look at what's behind you. You had to do that a lot.
yes, yeah, that is very true. And we're talking about us coming from Midwest and things like that. For me, a lot of my ambition was met with a lot of naysayers too. Just in that, it's like, why do you want to do that again?
Yeah.
I don't think you can do it. What makes you think? Like you said, your mom said you were too big for your britches. I dedefinitely felt that too. It's like, what's
Yeah.
wrong with
She
the
loved that
britches you
though
got
about me.
on?
She loved that about me, but the world didn't. I said, "School." I'm like, wait, people don't like me like my mom.
Oh, that's funny because mine was like the opposite. My mom felt she was trying to keep me safe by
Oh,
not
not my
being the
mom.
weird kid. And
No.
it's just like, no, you gotta let me go and just be the weird
Yeah.
kid. I
This
gotta
is
I gotta
the
find out what this is.
my mom said this to me. I remember I go, "Mom, I can't stop eating." I was like 14, 12, 13, 14. And she goes, "Katie, eating's a very sensual thing and you're a very sensual person." And I'm like, "Yeah." So she never made food an issue, you see? So I don't have a food issue. I love food. Food is pleasure. Food is great.
It
And yet
is.
I'm still very disciplined when it comes to my competition. And my daughter, like, she's different body than me. And I'd be like, babe, weight comes, weight goes. Don't attach to it. You know,
Exactly.
and it's a beautiful way to embrace our goodness, is to understand we deserve pleasure. We deserve to have goodness. But that's at the end of the push.
Yeah.
Slovenliness and laziness, it is a cardinal sin. So
Well,
stop,
I think if anything else, we were talking about food. It's like always make sure that it's good. Always make sure that it's good food
or not
that you're eating. You
always.
know.
That sounds boring.
Well, I will make an exception for cake because I have a very strong weakness for cake.
I love cake. Let
Oh,
them
I
eat
do
cake.
too. I do
Let them
too.
eat
It's
cake.
like you be at those office parties and like, oh, it's somebody's birthday. And like, ah, I might swing by. I might swing by and say happy birthday because I would love a slice of cake.
So,
You know?
Catherine, I'm excited for us to launch our books together. I know you are working diligently on your book, which is going to be an absolute game changer.
Oh,
And
thank
it's
you.
thematically really similar, our books in ways. And so I'm really looking forward to supporting you as you bring your book to market to change lives. And let's plan an event together so that
We
we can
could,
both
no, that
speak
could be
together.
very
I think
fun.
that would be an absolute blast.
That could be very, very fun. I need to wrap this up, but I still need to know what is it that you do? And you touched upon a little bit some of the things that you do when you're not like writing the books and you're not, changing lives. And you talked a little bit about bodybuilding and things like that. How did you get into that?
When I was 21, I came from a family a lot of drug and alcohol abuse, and I was just like I said, I was always just a little bit of a nerd. And at 21, there was no gym, there was no gyms because I'm older than you, Catherine. So there were no gyms anywhere. It was like women worked out in those pink places, you know.
Oh
And
yeah,
I
yeah.
remember going. We started a gym at my college. Me and the guy that was like a mime or something, and we're like, "What if we do this behind the mailroom?" And I remember the first time I got under a barbell, I was like, oh, I like that. And it just became, yeah, and it just became, and the thing is that strength training, I'm not even going to go into it. You can get my book, Claim Your Inner Hottie. That's my book. You can grab on Amazon. But the thing is about it is that if you have ADHD or if you have any kind of like stress, getting underweight will calm you. It literally has a calming ability. And that's why you think about weighted blankets or anything like that. Weights reorganize you. And for me, it does. It's my sanctuary. Even though it was all men and it was very a masculine energy, I had 5 brothers. I was used to it, right?
Hmm.
But it was my sanctuary of safety away from the chaos of the rest of my life. And it's literally, I started competing in bikini at 43 after I had my 3 kids. And
Oh my goodness.
19 years later, still doing it. I have a pro show coming up in July in Jersey. I'm looking to get my pro card. It's 60 plus, baby. So always rising.
I love that. And that's actually a really good point about weights and things like that. Because I have gone through, and I'm not at the level that you are by any stretch, but there's just something about, because you have to concentrate. It's like, I need to lift this and everything else shuts off in your mind except that concentration for that basically either competition for somebody else or for yourself. Usually it's yourself. It's like, I want to see if I can lift this, but
Yes.
it's really kind of a game changer.
It's a metaphor for like meeting life's challenges because you're pushing against something and what is the limit? And it's just a powerful metaphor, whether it's
Love that.
spiritual, physical, mental, business, finances. We must push to our edges. That's the only place where growth happens. And as we age, we lose a very high level of muscle mass as we age. And what's in the muscle? Mitochondria. Go back to biology class. What are mitochondria? The power packs of your cell made in your muscle that feeds your brain. Your basic metabolic rate, most of your calories are used where? For what? Your brain. Your brain is a calorie burner. You
Interesting.
must increase your mitochondria. And the way you do that is do not let your muscle mass atrophy, your muscle mass. You got to build it to make yourself strong. So that's all I'm going to say about that. But
Well, you
late
have
neuroscience is all over it. And I'm so glad, thankfully, that it's not just if you lift weights, you're stupid, which is what I grew up with. No, I did. I never, Catherine, I never would talk about the fact that I was a gym rat. I wouldn't even tell people I did competitions because I was embarrassed because I thought people, and people do still to this
oh
day.
yeah. Oh yeah. There's stereotypes
Judge
all
me
the
by how I
time.
look. They assume because I'm fit and I care about the way I look that I'm vain, that I'm this. I'm like, oh wow, that's sad, right? but that's the bias, and that's our society bias. But I'm willing to own the fact that I'm a bodybuilder, I'm a bikini competitor, and I'm good with it. So
Well, we also carry the burden of being blonde too, so that has its own stereotypes as well. So you get hit twice.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, Kate, this has been amazing. I just love talking with you, and we could probably talk for another hour. Um, God forbid if we were in the same room, we would probably not be able to be separated for at least 3 to 5 hours, and then
No,
we would
we'd
go
have
out for
to
drinks.
imagine us in school.
But thank you so much. And everybody, please check out her books. I think they will change your life. If anything resonated with you, I think that's who you're talking to. And you talked about so many different things that I think are going to hit notes with people. So we will look at your current, we'll look at all your books, the ones coming, the ones that are printed, everything. And I will
Yeah,
have all the links in the notes of the podcast so people can
excellent.
find them. And Kate, once again, thank you so much for being here.
I appreciate it. And remember, all of you, you have greatness within you. You really, truly do. And as my coach told me, I believe in you. And I believe in you. If you're hearing this, we believe in you. And keep leaning in. And thank you very much, Catherine.
Thank you so much.